Good morning, everybody. I hope you had a better week than the one I had. Thank God for life, but living in Nigeria is something of a chore and a deal these days. But so going forward, I'll be uploading my sermon because that's what it's become, or shall I say, lamentation. I can no longer count on the network or the mongrels to live by live stream alone. So this is going to be the new normal going forward, at least until such a time as when I'm able to afford a link that guarantees me a stream that will not either be prone to attack or the madness of fluctuation. But be that as it may, that's for that. This morning, I'd like us to speak to the subject Nigeria, a finished country. I pick my words deliberately. And if you've been anywhere near me for some time, you will know that, and I've spoken to this multiple times, I hate linguistic inexactitude. Words should mean what they are meant to mean. You shouldn't, nobody should be wondering what you mean when you use words. So when I speak to the subject, Nigeria, a finished country, I speak about it being finished in the same terms that you speak about the completion of a task. Those who had set themselves the task of finishing Nigeria as an enterprise have actually completed their task because they have actually done a fantastic job of finishing Nigeria. Don't worry, I'll explain. During the course of the week that was, and there's really no need to speak to the week that was today because it hasn't been a very good week. During the course of that week, series of events cascaded, one on top of the other. News were coming from different angles that confirmed to me that we're going to have to reinvent Nigeria if it is to survive. Because the Nigeria that we were all managing, Buhari killed it, but Tinubu is burying it. And when I use Buhari, Tinubu, understand that I am not speaking to their person. I'm speaking to the system that used them or is using them to finish what it was designed to do, which is to finish Nigeria. Question is whether it will finish those who are labeled Nigerians. It is because the like of me do not want to see this country finished so that my seed are not finished. That is why I'm forced to speak. And I'm also forced to speak so that perhaps those who are coming behind might be able to find their way out of the madness that all of you are helping to entrench today. So during the course of the week, I began to assimilate the news of American troop deployment in Nigeria. I was seeing the justifiable celebration of the victims of Nigeria as American troops are being deployed in Nigeria. Because most of the time I speak in epigrams, I'll just throw a sentence and I will not bother to explain myself. It is for those who have the capacity to think, to understand the things I post on social media. It's too small, too restrictive in space for me to fully explain the thoughts. So I leave it for idiots to argue, for the wise to question, and for those interested in learning to ask questions. But I'm really bothered by the reactions and the cacklings that I see when I post these thoughts. One of the things I posted spoke to what Malu did in 2001 that led to his dismissal by Obasanjo. And what did Malu do? What did Malu do? I'll tell you. Malu resisted Obasanjo's embrace of the American plan, security plan for the Gulf of Guinea, which led to the setting up of the African Command of the of the American army. They wanted bases in Nigeria, and Obasanjo was happy to play along. But Malu, as the chief of army staff, refused. He resisted. He pointed out how such concession amounted to a surrender of Nigerian sovereignty. And Malu wasn't acting alone. A generation before him, there was widespread protests in Nigeria, led mostly by the University of Ibadan students. This was around I can't remember, but just around early independence years, maybe around 1961 or thereabout, there was going to be the Anglo-Nigerian Defense Pact, where the British were going to station military force in Nigeria. But university students were conscious enough to understand the trade-off in relation to the sovereignty of the country, and they resisted. And because of their resistance, that pact was neutered. When Obasanjo came, Malu sacrificed his career, probably led to the invasion of Zakibian. But the important thing is this: somebody spoke up, recognizing that the territorial integrity of a country should not be surrendered to another in the manner that Obasanjo was proposing at the time. The Nigerian army, which Victor Malu commanded, was the same army that Victor Malu led a portion of to restore peace in Ekomog. Malu understood the importance of the sovereignty of this country. May God rest his soul. Here is the thing. At the time in question, Nigeria did not have its territorial integrity challenged by monsters who were imported by monsters looking for power in 2014, 2015. I am not suggesting that Nigeria was El Dorado before the formation of the APC and its importation of terrorists into Nigeria. That is not what I am saying. The madness in Nigeria actually started around 2001 when Obasanjo was getting ready for second term and northern governors weaponized Islam. And this was the seeding ground for Islamist terrorism in northern Nigeria. But what happened in 2014 was on another level entirely. These were persons coming into power and who were willing to do deals with terrorists in order to capture power. This is no longer conjecture. These are facts, and we should no longer be arguing facts. To be arguing against the fact is to be mad, and I'm not going to join you insane lot in doing that. You have to be mad to be arguing about the complicity of the APC in the terrorism that has overtaken Nigeria today. So when you now understand that persons in your government committed themselves to treason, and most of them are still in power today, the territorial integrity of Nigeria was surrendered, thrown away, deliberately trampled upon in pursuit of power. It's not unique to those who weaponized Islam. Niger Delta militancy was equally weaponized, and those who are weaponizing Islam readily point to the amnesty in the Niger Delta because they understand the parallel in criminality, even though the grievances of the Niger Delta, which remain unaddressed till date, are genuine. They point to the separatists in the southeast as though a quest for freedom is the same as terrorism. This is the mindset of those who have gained power weaponizing Islam and encouraging terrorism. There is barely any politician of note in northern Nigeria today that is completely free of complicity in the madness that has overtaken Nigeria as far as Islamist terrorism is concerned. Let's not talk about the mindset. people who deleted tweets that they had put out in condemnation of terror. Those are the seeding ground for the madness that has become accepted as the norm. This is how you finish a country with complicity. You keep quiet in the face of evil. You find reasons not to speak. How do you think a country speak for itself when those who are actually victims find reason to be quiet in the face of evil? How? So, we have built a country where those who should be proud citizens were clapping, applauding the entry into their country of a malevolent, let's be clear, American interest in Nigeria is not benevolent, malevolent, because I can't think of any, a person comes to power telling you America first. He speaks in very clear terms about who he is. And his first intervention in our country, they've profiled us, they know us. He spoke about Christian genocide. Is there Christian genocide in Nigeria? Most definitely there is. Most definitely. But those are dog whistles. The minute he said that, the system went into overdrive. People began to talk about, oh, there were Muslim victims too. Oh, there. The point is there a Christian genocide or not? You know it, I know it, there is. But are there Muslims being killed or not? Most definitely. In crazy numbers too. But let's be clear, people are dying simply because of their identity in most cases. That does not devalue the truth of Muslims being slaughtered in crazy numbers. These are the facts. But those who used it, they know what to get from you. They know the kind of reactions they will get out of us because they know that we have subjectivized humanity within our country. And then we speak about Trump's racism when we cannot even speak to our own humanity and everybody is reduced to either their religion or their ethnicity. Oh, 820 Muslims were killed. So their humanity is subsumed beneath an identity. Oh, 50 Christians were slaughtered. Oh, we've devalued humanity in this country and you still think the country is not finished. You think the country is not finished, where we have managed to divide ourselves to the point of dehumanization. You look around the whole country. How did it happen that a military that was capable of restoring peace fought a guerrilla warfare? We have fought guerrilla warfare in Sierra Leone, in Liberia, had led multinational forces since as far back as the 60s, are commended for their immense capacity whenever they had served on international peacekeeping forces in Sarajevo, in the Congo. The same military that could intervene in Benin, that same military is incapable of enforcing peace in his own, guaranteeing security to the point where America had to send its soldiers. And you say that country is not finished. It's not that American soldiers are even on Nigerian soil. It's the fact that Nigerians are legitimately and rightly happy, rejoicing at the idea. And you say the country is not finished. What kind of country do you have where we've become a reproach? We've become a reproach around the world. The other day was Namibians dragging us like tiger generator. Another one brought our dirty laundry into the public arena, pointing how pointing out how we have like 6 generators in one building, which is the truth of our existence. Pointing out how everything is for sale in our country. You can buy a passport. You can have, if you're connected enough, you can have entries deleted in this database and something new placed there. You don't need to know how to drive before you get a driver's license. A friend of mine, Modil, told the story of how if another friend of his was trying to get the national ID card and it was taking forever and he needed a means of ID urgently. This guy didn't know how to drive. Well, he was guided to take a driving test online and he was issued a license. He paid a token sum, maybe less than 50,000 or something along those lines. This is the country that you say is not finished. Nigeria is so divided that people cannot even see how criminal someone like Gumi is when he likens terrorism to business. 170 human beings slaughtered, and those since we began to subjectivize humanity, these were Muslims. Muslims. The terrorists wrote to tell them that they were coming to preach. The traditional ruler took the letter, informed the authorities, and the terrorists came, slaughtered indiscriminately. They were not asking for their identity. They slaughtered human beings, male, female, old, young, slaughtered them without, it simply slaughtered them. And you say that country is not finished. They slaughtered them. And the president, who is never bothered to visit the scene of any of this, at least Buhari tried, even if he will carry his red carpet, he went to Dapchi. This one doesn't go anywhere. Yelawata, there are too many tragedies to track. Not at least a token visit to empathize, show that Nigeria simply went on like nothing happened. And then they sent a battalion. A battalion was sent after the fact. After the fact. Let me remind you that some weeks ago, it was in that same Kwara state that a militia, a Fulani militia, was not only identified, but members were apprehended with automatic weapons supposedly given to them by the Office of the National Security Advisor. What is going on in this country that suggests to you that this country is not finished? A country that cannot guarantee the security of its own territory. Citizens are victimized, rendered as victims in the country. And you say that country is not finished. We've normalized the language of division in subjectivizing the humanity of victims. Oh, It's Christian genocide. Oh, it's Muslim being killed. Oh, so we have to describe the humanity with some qualifier in order to do what exactly? Maintain a balance of victims, keep a record of equity in the killings. These are things that have been done deliberately to finish this country. Where else, in a time where we've subjectivized everything, where else would you find a government that think is okay, a party that think is okay to enthrone a man caught on camera shoving dollars into Babariga as his national chairman? The same party thought it was okay to have Muslim in a country utterly divided by religion, sectarianism, and ethnicity. Thought nothing of it, and we are reaping today the rewards. This country that you say is not finished, a government that had that has millions of children out of school, millions of citizens untrained, not skilled in any business, not capable of creating value. But this state went and borrowed money to send people to Hajj. And you think that country is not finished? I was watching a video the other day online, some Chinese fruit seller. And whilst he had his watermelon and stuffs on his uh, kiosk, he was coding. I think he was, somebody identified it as him uh, writing some kind of computer. I'm not I'm not tech savvy, but this guy was coding. He was doing some kind of computer thing behind his fruit display. Why is it so difficult to understand that what you plant is what you would reap? You plant the wind, you reap whirlwinds instead of training the youth. This governor went and borrowed money to send people to Hajj. The same Hajj money that we've been told multiple times they would even embezzle. Borrow money to send people to Hajj, embezzle it. It was in this same Nigeria that a friend of mine told me of a story where the Christian Pilgrims Board, intent on spending its allocation for that year, it was towards the end of COVID. Israel was shut down to the world. They wouldn't open their border. The pilgrims, Christian pilgrims, going on state sponsorship, went to Beirut. They went to Lebanon. They couldn't access Israel, but they still intended to spend their money. This is a country with over 30 million children out of school, but we are spending money to send people to Hajj, to Jerusalem. None of these are meant to be a charge on state purse, but in a finished country, this was what this is what we do routinely. Routinely. In a finished country, the single largest contract awarded by this government, there was no public tender, no appropriation, nothing. Nothing. And not a single one of yesterday's men, those who would once have spoken, have had anything to say. And even if they have had anything to say, where is the Nigerian press of hold that asked questions? Why has it been left to outliers? See, you've turned people like Rufai to outliers because nobody else of note is speaking. Instead of speaking in challenge of the madness, they are speaking to explain, to normalize. And everybody have become so acculturated to madness that the few who speak are labeled as extremists. I actually found that it was easier for a lot of people to hear me when I started describing myself as insane. So I'm insane. You're the sane ones. But in your sanity, have you thought about exactly how sane it is? That you are all sitting down, calm and collected, even as the country is being finished. Finished at an alarming rate. In this last week, it came to my notice that after Lagos State had decimated land rights, decimated, grabbed people's land left, right, and center, sold it as beneficial owners to the likes of Dangote, to the likes of, to create privately owned free trade zones, privately owned, eventually privately owned airports, stolen people's land left, right, and center. The federal government, headed by the monster of Lagos, has now come with its coastal road, decimating decisions that had been given sometime over 30 years ago. And you say that country is not finished. A country where you can't even speak to the sanctity of property rights. Somebody can just turn their BD high in your direction, and that's that. And you say that country is not finished. A country where the president could just wake up one morning and decide to bestow the second highest national honor on a man known around the world as a thief. And you say that country is not finished. What is left of that country? He did it, and not one bleat by any one of the persons you may consider men of honor in this country. People look at us all around the world, and as I said earlier, we've become a reproach. Everybody pokes jokes and funs at us, and we can't even bleat. South Africans, Ghanaians, anybody can poke jokes at us. Anybody. We've been disgraced around the world. And it's not necessarily just by the government. The things we say about ourselves to each other, you describe the Igbo as this, you describe the Yoruba as that, you describe the Hausa as this. But they only know Nigerians. They don't know who is the Igbo, who is the Yoruba, who is the Fulani, Hausa, Ijo. They don't care to know. They don't care to know. Just like you even have, in fact, it's the perfect description. As you have difficulties telling one Chinese man from the other, that is how they have difficulties. Imagine, in looks, you're seeing the person and you have difficulties telling them apart. You think they care or they can see beyond your face? All you are is a black man or woman. Whether you are even, before you begin to identify as Nigerian, you are already disadvantaged. Now you are a Nigerian, the first thing that clicks in his head is, now I gotta be careful. This is one smart dude who may or may not seek to take me. That's where it starts. Because we've been well defined, labeled, branded in the consciousness of the international community. It begins with us being seen as fraudulent, then irresponsible, wastrels, disorderly. Everything about us bespeaks madness. And you say this country is not finished. Let me show you how you will know. If you have children, if you're my age, if you have children and they went to schools abroad, I warrant that If you put down 100 of them, 90 have voted against coming back to Nigeria. Why? They love the country, even if only for the weather, for the energy, but they recognize that there is no future in that country. They can see, they can't see the future in that country. That's why they are running away from it. I should know. I should know. That's my story, and that's the story of a whole lot of my friends. These kids don't want to come back. Why would you want to come back when your friends whom you grew up with, who are not abroad, are looking to come abroad? Because they don't have anything to come back to do in Nigeria. Have you noticed that even the ruiners of Nigeria, those who are finishing Nigeria, the only thing they ever put their children in is politics? Mai is doing it. The terrorist in Port Harcourt is doing it. Atiku's children. I'm told Obasanjo's daughter is looking to become the governor of Ogun State under the APC. Will Baba be attending the inauguration? See, the reality is that Nigeria is finished. And those who have finished it are well aware of the fact that they have finished it. It is the victims of Nigeria who are still lying to themselves that they still have a country. A country where the signature legislation of the administration has been forged. You have multiple versions of the most important legislation that has come out of this government. When the tax bill came out, me, reflexively, was against it. And in seeking to find consensus, I spoke to an older friend, a very progressive older friend, a wealthy man who is going to be paying whatever I own is a fraction of what he probably pays in tax every year. And he said to me, he said, Dele, this is probably the most important legislation that the Nigerian government could push through, that we should support it. That as much as I might hate the idea of them embezzling it, but I should just look forward to the fact that a day will come when a responsible government would be able to administer that fund. But that is a move in the right direction. He didn't know at the time of the fraud. Now we know. And the whole thing is so opaque. A country that has outsourced its taxation systems to France, the security to America. Is that the country that is not finished? What is left of Nigeria? The president who superintended a state with the fourth largest economy in Africa could not build a single healthcare facility to take care of his own health. Up until today. Is it beyond our capacity, or is it the equipment that we are incapable of buying? The same country that had hospital systems that the Saudi royals could use 50, 60 years ago. And you say that country is not finished. What is left of this country? What is it about Nigeria today that inspires hope in those outside of government? They say renewed hope. How do you renew hope that you are killing on a daily basis? When I started my public engagement, it started with an article that was titled, "Do Not Die in Their War." Let me break it down for you. Their war is over. In case you didn't hear me, let me say it again. Their war is over. That is the emergence of the one-party state that you are seeing. The ultimate dawn, the capo di tutti di capi, is in power. He doesn't muck about with power. He understands the nature of power. And he is not yoked to any moral. Any member of the class that steps out of line will be whacked in the head so that they stay in line. if we should pretend the emergence of that one party state unless something happens. And that thing that has to happen is not in the hand of politicians. This is not about politicians. This is about us as a collective understanding what is coming. You see Akpabio vibrating and talking about how there can be no automatic instantaneous transmission of of result is because they must retain the veto and take the sovereignty out of your hand. This is not about whether you are an APC member, unless you are a beneficiary who feeds from that system. If you are not sat at that table, I guarantee you, you are on the menu. This does not care anything about your ethnicity. If you are an Igbo man and you are thinking it's a Yoruba thing, all of your rascals in the southeast, they are today influencers in APC. What they are doing is that they are using what they have to bring in the impressionable young minds, even in the southeast, where you've had a bastion of resistance to the madness on account of multiple reasons, which I'm not prepared to go to in this morning. But the critical thing I'm calling your attention to is the fact that as things stand today, a one-party state is emerging, and the only bulwark against that is you. It may not be in this election cycle, but if you fail to insist on foolproof mechanism for ensuring the sanctity of your vote, I guarantee you that the one-party state will come after the 2027 election. And this is not about Tinubu. Tinubu is just one man. Just as I would die one day, he would himself. However old any one of us get to be, the important thing to note is that we are mere mortals, travelers in time, and we will go. But what are we building? You see Umai positioning his son. You see Wike positioning his own. You see Tinubu's children being positioned. You see all the members of the ruling class moving and flowing into the APC is because they recognize that that is where the power is going or where the power is. You see members of your judiciary singing on his mandate, they have stood. What you are seeing is a mimic of the communist system in China, a centralized bureau that determines who gets what. But what you're actually seeing is a conglomeration of criminals, the vilest type. And against this backdrop, you see a Donald Trump who is busy telling you about how he is in Nigeria to safeguard you, Christians. But question is this: the whole world and his dog knows the terrorist sponsors in Nigeria. How many of them has Donald Trump helped you to arrest, since the Nigerian government will not arrest them? How many of the criminals ruling you have you seen him moved to take out? Let me be clear. America first. Donald Trump told you. So if Donald Trump is in Nigeria, it's because there is American interest, or there are American interests to be protected in Nigeria. I have no problem with the Americans. My problem is with you, who is completely oblivious and you're celebrating. And rightly so, as I have said, if I was in the middle belt facing extinction, I'd be celebrating anything that tangentially promises hope or relief. But the question is this: the morning after, what happens? American troops have been deployed in Nigeria. But has it changed the Nigerian government? Has it stopped them from paying 9 million to lobbyists who produced the screwdriver theory of information gathering? Did it stop the same government from turning blind eyes and talking about phoning terrorists Have you heard the account of those who came out of captivity in Kaduna? People who were supposedly rescued, but obviously ransomed. This is a finished country, and it is up to you, the victims, to understand that this country as it is must not even be allowed to be sustained. We must find a way to break this cycle, or we will end up enslaved. We're already more or less encircled. But what is happening now should alarm any one of you who still has a modicum of capacity for sentience. We are in dire straits, and we will need to find the grace to rise. But the only way we rise and do not get crushed is for us to find common purpose. We need and we must find common purpose. The one party state is here. Let me be very, very clear about that. It will take the victims finding common purpose before that one party state can be stopped. If it is a one party state found on altruistic vision, I'm not going to be against it. But everything about these ones suggests that this country is being taken over by criminals. In some cases, persons with convictions. In some cases, persons with criminal backgrounds. In most, if not all cases, persons who have no record of public service. The only thing they have is proximity to corrupt power and to impunity. I do not pray to leave such a country for my own children. If Nigeria is to survive, it must be reimagined, because this country as it stands is finished. It must not even be allowed to survive, because in its survival is the guarantee of enslavement. I do not come to titillate you or to depress you or to whip you into a frenzy without offering you solutions. I believe that in the coming election cycle, we must find a visionary leader to rally behind. The alternative to an electoral revolution is scary, but I warrant that this is either going to come through the ballot or it will come on the streets. The human spirit deplores injustice. And to have a country where over 130 million people are living in desperate poverty, and I mean desperate poverty, it simply means that these persons are surviving on less than $3 a day. Less than $3 a day. Picture that. A dollar is 1,000, let's say 1,500. So you're talking about less than 5,000 naira a day, because that 5,000 naira is inclusive of his accommodation, his feeding, everything is going to do, his health care, everything is on that 5,000 naira a day. And you have over 130 million Nigerians living below that. Picture that in a country without any safety net. Poverty has been fully weaponized. If you, who has the capacity to watch me, do not take it upon yourself to educate across the lines that have been built for you, religion, ethnicity, sectarian, if you do not find the grace to walk those bridges that you must build in order to educate persons and prepare them for what is to come. I say this without any fear. If it doesn't happen in this generation, it will happen in the next. But Nigeria will combust. The human spirit rebels against injustice. The injustice in Nigeria has finished it. It's too much. The judiciary offers no hope. It's the last hope of the common man. But it is universally acknowledged in Nigeria today that there is no justice to be found in his court. And you think that country is not finished. You have an illusion of a country. Nigeria is already as kindlings soaked with gasoline, and his rulers, the pyromaniacs, playing with matches left, right, and center, believing that nothing will happen. A lot will happen, and it will consume you if you do not turn around. Those who make peaceful change impossible make violent change inevitable. Maybe in my lifetime, I may be long gone. You may be the ones who will pay for the things you're doing, or it may be your children. But history is replete with stories of the ruination of systems and the persons who operated them with impunity, believing that the system will be sustained forever. PDP spoke of 16 years, or 60 years, yeah, stage 16. The end of the APC will be no different. But the end of the APC without the end of this system merely postpones the evil day. That is why I'm not interested in a change of regime. I'm interested in a change of the system. Because without cutting the evil tree that has finished this country, poisoned the streams, nothing will change. If you're interested in my vote in 2027 or my support, show me how you intend to finish this current Nigeria and build a new Nigeria, because this country is finished. You can't build anything on this. I'm going to see you next week. God bless you. And what they say is enough for the wise. I've had my own say. I hope you heard. God bless.